All right, guys.
We're back.
Yeah, we're back. Thanks for joining us here to talk about some of the fluff and stuff.
The fun, fluffy stuff.
Yeah, so this was a very interesting book. My understanding of the 40K setting before playing was, like, nothing had changed in this, in this game forever.
Oh, well, it's changed.
Yeah.
Things change. I mean, when you have, like, a massive title, like The Fall of Cadia, it will have an impact on the lore and different races, factions within the lore.
Yeah, no, it's things have definitely changed. And just kind of start off, it kind of opens up with basically Cadia's already under siege and has beaten back the first wave, more or less.
The first wave, pretty much, of the 13th...
Black Crusade of Abaddon, yep. Abaddon has not kind of come down himself, but basically their fleet has almost been completely wiped out. There's like one Space Wolf battle barge left that's fully operational. They're still operational gun-wise with the fleet, but most of their engines have been knocked out. So they can't really go anywhere, but they're kind of like drifting battle platforms, I guess you could say, at this stage.
Pretty much.
They can't really maneuver too much, though.
And I think the first part was done, after the first wave.
Right. You have Creed sort of assuming command and trying to reinforce things. It talks about the Battle Sisters. They're kind of arming up at a shrine. There's some... was it Imperial Fists, I think? Or was it... No, that was later.
Imperial Fist came later.
I think it just says
Iron
some...
Wolves, Space Wolves.
Space Wolves are... Okay, so the Space Wolves are, they're guarding, the northern flank border.
Yes.
There's some Dark Angels that have basically come out of a crashed strike cruiser, and they're defending that, because apparently it still has a lot of its weapons are operational. So they're using orbital-type weapons on ground units. So that's kind of cool. But the Dark Angels are doing that. And then there's basically some assorted Space Marine factions that are assisting the Astra Militarum, and they're basically reinforcing Kasserkraft.
Yes, Kasserkraft was the main one.
Yeah, so they're reinforcing that. It's kind of how we open up. Kree, they can't really call for reinforcements or anything because any astropaths that attempt to basically reach out just die. And any of the beacon amplifiers they have are destroyed. Well, Creed basically has them salvage an amplifier. They aren't really, as they say, attuned to it. So, but with the help of Magos from the,
Magos, I can't remember. Magos?
Oh, that's from Adeptus Mechanica. I can't remember his name, but basically he doesn't seem to be a central figure.
He was at first, but then kind of
fell off
a little bit.
Let's see, they managed to get a call out, essentially, but it ends up killing most of the psychers, because they actually end up plugging in non-astropaths into this machine, which
to power
is bad.
Up the main
which is bad, usually, and it ends up basically killing all of them but one.
Yeah, but it does reach, I believe, the phalanx.
Well, it reaches, we get to that. Basically, they send out a call for help, and that's kind of where you end. With them reinforcing with the help of, the Adeptus Mechanicus, Astra Militarum, Scions, Space Marines. You got
Battle Sisters.
Yeah. It's literally just a massive conglomeration of Imperial forces trying to reinforce and prepare for the next wave, which Creed is positive is coming. They've also sent out some scout ships. About the time that these scout ships make it back is when they're about to send off the signal for help, and it more or less confirms Creed's fear that the Black Fleet is regrouped and is basically coming to finish the job, as well as there being a Blackstone Fortress, which is bad.
I know they're also I couldn't really follow in that beginning part, but they were also trying to prepare a null array of some kind to block off a major blast.
Right, because the Blackstone the Blackstone Fortress is able to shoot basically a planet-destroying laser, and they're trying to... The planetary shields that were supposed to protect against that are offline, and they're trying to work on that, although I don't think that was quite mentioned yet. But it's all kind of at the same time. Anyways, it kind of cuts to the Phalanx, which anyone who's really familiar with the Space Marines outside of, especially the Imperial Fist, the Phalanx is sort of Dorn's legacy, so to speak. I guess it's a massive, massive ship with basically the firepower of a fleet on its own. Well... it kind of cuts to that, and most of the Imperial Fists are gone, with the exception of some First Company vets and basically a newly put together Third Company of the Imperial Fists, which basically are completely untested, essentially.
Yeah.
And this is all that's on board the Phalanx to defend it. Well,
it was being attacked, I believe, at the time as
right.
well.
Bellicor, along with some Iron Warriors led by Shantu, I think, decide to one-up Abaddon. Like, well, screw your plans of going for Cadia. We're going to one-up you. We're going to take the Phalanx, or we're going to destroy
Earth.
Yeah, we're going to destroy Holy Terra. And they use the warp to basically appear on board the Phalanx, and of course it's under-defended because they aren't expecting it. In fact, the entire reason the Third Company's there is because they're untested and, are basically like, here, you can't get in trouble, we'll just leave you here, you'll be safe.
No. Not safe.
They end up being obviously badly outnumbered. However, there's enough defenses. They're doing okay, but then they start putting in a technovirus into the ship.
Yes.
It starts turning the ship against them, but it's slow spreading, it seems. Basically, what's his name? Like, he's Galanthros, right?
Garadon?
Garadon. I don't know. It's Galanthros or Garadon, something like that.
I think it was Garadon who was on.
Yeah, he's the leader of the Third Company. He's the one kind of running things. He ends up deciding that that it would be far worse, that the absolute worst fate here would be for them to take the ship and use Dorne's legacy to attack Holy Terra.
Yeah.
And probably reasonably so. So he ends up having the Phalanx turn its weapons on its own hull and basically cut off part of the ship to protect the rest of it.
The virus,
yeah, so it basically cuts off the virus, essentially. And it ends up killing the majority of the Iron Warriors and Demons. Well, anyways, he kind of makes a relatively odd choice, which is, I understand it, but it was possibly poor too. He decides to basically then emergency warp jump the ship so that even if his ship is taken, it cannot be used to attack Terra. However, of course, demons in the warp are now more powerful, and they keep coming back, and so they end up slowly fighting a losing battle, and things get worse and worse, and so they end up regrouping. Bellicor keeps basically suiciding his people because he doesn't care, because he's in the warp. Well, the gods apparently aren't a fan of that, and they sort of start to get pissed at Bellicor and kind of ignore his request for more troops. And
they decide no.
Basically, Bellicor finally says, "Fine, then I'll take matters in my own hand." And about the time he decides to do that, the Legion of the Damned materialize on board the ship.
And
just start wrecking the shit out of them. I also forgot to mention Shantu ends up being killed by the sergeant of the First Company. And he gets power fist to the face. Doesn't go well for him. Anyways, Bellicor gets beaten back, and as the Legion of the Damned are basically destroying the shit out of him, he decides to dematerialize and go back into the warp.
Pretty much run with this tail.
Yeah, pretty much. So they drop out of the warp, and the Legion of the Damned stay there. They, which is really odd, because obviously they normally do their job and then disappear, and that's it. But the Legion of the Damned have stayed, and they're all kind of like just forming up on the sergeant, who's just standing there in the middle of their hallway staring at them. Which has got to be unnerving, and it is. Like it obviously bothers the Imperial Fists as well as Garadon, right?
Yes. Because it's unusual. They're not leaving.
Yeah.
It's a clear message that something else is going on.
Yeah, they're essentially looking at them expectantly, waiting, and it's odd because, like I said, the Legion of the Damned never stays. And anyways, they're trying to decide what to do. They end up saying, okay, well, let's go back to Mars to start repairs on the ship because it's been pretty beat up. About the time they're about to jump, the librarians received the distress call from Creed, and after much arguing, they decide to go help because I think, as Garadon says, what's the point of a sword if you leave it in your sheath? Exactly. So the reasoning that, obviously some reasonable things is they're down to like half armaments. They don't have enough of a crew to run everything. So they say, okay, so they fine, we're going to Cadia. And basically the Legion of the Damned was clearly waiting for this because like, basically, the Legion of the Damned gives Garrodon a nod. Like, yes, do this. And that's obviously what the Legion of the Damned are there for, is they're hopping a ride to get to Cadia. So they go to Cadia. However, obviously, the fleet's closing in far too quickly. They can't seem to get the shields online. Oh, right, Trazyn. Cut to Trazyn. Trazyn basically gets a lot of his nice collections and a lot of his other bodies destroyed because of the bell basically announcing the 13th Black Crusade. He goes and finds out about Cadia and decides that it might be fun. He's bored. It might be fun to be a savior. And if nothing else, there's probably something interesting to collect on Cadia.
It was great, Pokemon Master.
Yeah.
He needs to build his...
You gotta catch them all.
His collection.
Regardless, so he's gonna go to Cadia too. So you have all these different, now stuff heading towards Cadia. And it's still not looking good. Cadia ends up cut back to Cadia. They're trying to get the shield together.
Trying to get that null array up.
All the forces are moving, or the fleet's moving towards Cadia. All the battleships and whatnot that were kind of interspersed amongst the debris come back to life because they're not dead. They're just playing possum. And they can't maneuver really, or like chase down. They don't have like good engines, but they have like maneuvering thrusters, and basically start shooting at the Black Fleet as they move into range. Doing a fair amount of damage, but the fleet is apparently to such a degree that it's not really enough. The Space Wolves at this point decide that
they will board the Will
Blackstone,
of Eternity.
which is the Blackstone. They decide to try to board the Will of Eternity, Blackstone Fortress, and they're like, we're going to go out and blaze
buy
of
you
glory.
some time because it's taking too long to build up the
shields. Well, anyways, in that time, the Stone Fortress fires, and we're all doomed. But
they didn't make it. It was too late.
But it worked. The shield worked. They don't know why. And off to the side, you see kind of Trazyn.
Pretty much they make
basically,
Trazyn
basically fixed their shield for him. He's like, oh, I noticed you're having some problems here. Let me fix this for you.
Yeah, that was him.
So Trazyn fixes the shields, kind of unnoticed to the Tech Marines, although they see Necron technology. There's like, what the hell?
Floating around.
They're like, what the hell is going on? But everyone's alive, and they're all happy about that. However, Abaddon at this point is like, enough's enough. I'm going to fucking win this if I have to do it myself. Leads the next wave, and Ocanthros comes with them.
Yeah, not Ocanthros. Yeah, Ocanthros.
Yeah, it's the Demon Prince.
Yeah, the Demon Prince
joins in. Basically ends up sort of being more or less unstoppable. Even Baron Isvardis, who's the leader of a bunch of knights there, can't really seem to do a whole lot to him.
Yeah, and he's trying to destroy, I believe, that matrix.
Yeah, he's trying to destroy the shield so that they can blow it up. They end up sort of slowly tearing through the lines and beating them back and destroying everything. And Ocanthros ends up fighting the two canonesses who are leading
Guinevere
the twin.
And Eleanor.
They're twins.
The twins, yeah.
Canonesses, and beating them and killing them. And moving on, and actually ends up destroying the generator. Well, about that time, Celestine arrives. Not just arrives, but arrives with essentially sisters who had their ship disabled and have been floating in the warp for like 1,000 years or some shit.
Pretty much reinforcements, as well as a golden light that I believe didn't that shear through demon skin.
It was basically. On top of that, when she arrives, she revives
Guinevere and Eleanor, who become her Gemini.
Yeah, and basically they start following her to battle, and
they wreck the Demon Prince.
They can't be killed, and Celestine along with Gemini just absolutely destroy Ocanthros. Like, it's brutal. Like, they beat the crap out of Ocanthros. Kill him, but, things still aren't... The Rival of the Sisters has done a huge boost. Celestine arriving has been a huge shot in the arm, essentially, for the Guard, and they're all fighting better and more powerful, and basically they start to sort of fight back, but...
Then the big guy.
Yeah, then the Titans, the Baneblade, and just basically lots of chaosy Traitor Legion, Traitor Guard, all that. You got a Baneblade, you got Titans, you have all sorts of bad shit starts happening.
And isn't that the point where Abaddon decides to come down too?
Yeah. Abaddon at this point is like, all right, I'm going. I've said, what I said before. He's like, all right, enough is enough. Let's do this. But at this point,
I will either die or Cadia will fall.
At this point, he's like, all right, Ocanthros failed, so screw it. I'm going to win one way or another. Mm-hmm. So he goes down.
Faces off Celestine.
Oh, right. So after Ocanthros actually successfully blows up the generator, we kind of missed this. The Phalanx arrives.
Yeah,
into
at the same time.
Literally teleports directly into the middle of the
so that offers
of the Black Fleet, and basically the Phalanx is essentially with the help of the remnants of the relatively broken fleet of the Imperium, starts doing some reasonable damage to their fleets, and the Space Wolves. Remember, I've said that they had the battle barge. They decided they're going to go try to buy time. Well, they've boarded the Blackstone Fortress. And they managed to, about this time, disable a shield section of the shields, which the Phalanx then shoots all its firepower into and literally blows the fuck up out of this.
Wasn't there a Valkyrie that kamikazed into eternity? Or was it into the Vengeful Spirit? There's a lot
that goes
stuff.
on. We're just trying to give cliff notes here.
Yeah.
I truly suggest getting this book or finding there's a lot of stuff. It's very interesting and fun. But regardless, the cliff notes is the Phalanx ends up blowing up the Blackstone Fortress with the help of Sven Fire Howler, I think. Mm-hmm. And they, obviously the wolves die in the process, but
yeah. A lot of people die in the process.
Yeah, so the Blackstone blows up. More or less, they start doing okay in terms of the fleet, and this is the point at which Abaddon's like, "Fuck this."
Yeah, and then
because he can't blow up the system, and anyways, so he goes down, and again the guard and the sisters start losing ground. Throughout all this, Call has arrived. I didn't really touch on him earlier, but Call has earlier received a message from a Shadow Seer who told him to go somewhere, and he's ended up going. He was taking a relic somewhere, and he kind of gets sidetracked on this planet. Because it has some odd...
He was told to keep digging, actually.
No. He initially stops here because it has relics. Mm-hmm. And he finds the relics interesting. But there's orcs arrive later, and he doesn't exactly have a huge fighting force, but he's sort of beat him back a few times, but he's like, all right, enough's enough. Like, I need to continue what my quest is. He's been studying these relics. Because Abaddon's crusade passed through here and basically bombarded the shit out of this planet that had nothing on it as far as the Imperium knew. And so he's down here researching, and anyway, about the time he decides, screw it, I don't have anything else to do, the Shadow Seer who initially talked to him on Mars shows up and tells him, keep digging for a little bit more. And so Call does, and he ends up more or less discovering that the pylons that are all over Cadia were on this planet, too. They were just sort of a little bit more buried. Yeah. And he kind of finds that these were helping to contain the warp. And this is sort of the reason... All of Abaddon's past crusades have literally the entire purpose of it been to destroy these planets that have... or these pylons on all these random planets that the Necrons have placed. That help, make the warp weaker, which is why the warp is getting stronger...
All the warp storms.
Throughout time, after each of these crusades, the warp, there's more warp storms happening. It's because these are dying. Needless to say, the Cal isn't thrilled about this, so he goes to Cadia because he knows about the Cadian pylons. It was like, somehow I can use this. Well, he's ended up on Cadia, and him and Creed have sort of bunkered down into these tunnels that Creed has had dug. Mm-hmm. And he's down there, he can't figure out how to make it work, and Trazen's like, let me help you. I can assist.
And he does.
And Kyle ends up, basically, he's like, what have I got to lose? Because, as Trazen says, he's one of the idiots who live in the galaxy, so he would rather it not be, he has no vested interest in chaos. He has no interest in chaos controlling the galaxy. It would be bad. So he's like, I'll help, because why wouldn't I? Cal kind of grudgingly agrees, realizing that he truly has no real hope of understanding and using this technology. Mm-hmm. Well, with Trazen's help, they sort of developed this elaborate system, more or less, And the sisters have been fighting well and beating back and doing a good job. But Abaddon has now breached the tunnel. And although their sisters are winning on the surface, Abaddon is definitely winning inside the tunnel.
Not only that, but when they, I think they turn on the pylons, and that also cut off a lot of the...
No, not yet. That didn't happen. Anyways, they're trying to get the pylon. Yeah, they're trying to get the pylons on. Basically, the Imperium are losing. Creed's down there, and Trajan's kind of like, I like my collections, but should I be a savior? Should I not? Should I steal something? And then he ends up deciding that if he waits, he's sure to find something better. So he throws out one of his Pokeballs, basically, and summons like an entire,
three-horse heresy Ultramarines.
He summons like a company of heresy era Ultramarines. There's a Custodes in there. There's an Inquisitor with a company of Tempestus Scions. There's like basically just a huge huge army in his pocket of Imperium who. What the hell's going on when they appear? But it doesn't take long to realize there's chaos.
Kill 'em.
Shoot the chaos. So they end up basically fighting, but they're still slowly dying and losing this fight. Greyfax is the Inquisitor who appears, but she kind of doesn't really want to do anything because basically she just like arrives and she's like,
heresy everywhere I see.
Yeah, she's like heresy everywhere.
Celestine, heresy.
And decides about that time to say. Sees the Necron over there helping Cal and is like, screw this, I'm taking care of this. Goes over and essentially about to, shoot the Necron in the head, and the Necron's like, don't you have more important things to do? Chaos? I'm not really here to hurt you guys.
I helped.
Yeah, it's like, if anything, I helped. Like, go shoot the Chaos. But more or less, kind of, there's an argument, I say argument, but Trajan more or less convinces Greyfax that what are you doing?
Well, not only that, but also because of the nanomachine, she couldn't really fight him.
Right. Yeah, because she has nanomachines in her blood, so she can't really shoot him, but she ends up kind of grudgingly agreeing that he's correct, that there's more pressing issues than this one Necron. Anyway, so it's during all this, they try to power up the machine, right? But it takes a long process to power up. So they're losing, and just about the time it looks like they're about to get completely overrun, the ceiling collapses, and down comes Celestine, her Gemini, and sisters. Mm-hmm. And they basically start beating back Abaddon and fighting back and doing a pretty good job in general. About that time, however, the pylons come on, and it actually weakens Celestine, but it also starts blinking the demons out of existence. Mm-hmm. It also starts killing Psychers, literally killing Psychers, although Greyfax apparently has supreme force of will and somehow manages...
she doesn't die, but all the other Psychers
Psychers' heads start exploding. And the Eye of Eye of Terror actually starts shrinking, too. So basically they're like, we're not only going to win, we're going to completely close the eye. And obviously things don't always go according to plan. And obviously not when the book is called Fall of Cadia. Apparently during all this fleet battle, the Chaos have attached thrusters to basically these moon-sized chunks of debris from the Blackstone Fortress. And they basically activate these and ram these into Cadia. So you have multiple moon-sized things ramming into Cadia, which basically starts a chain reaction of splitting the planet in half and destroying it. Yeah. At this point, Cal is watching the pylons disappear, and he's like, no. And then he ends up realizing Cadia is lost. We won't be able to hold this. So they start basically...
miscalculation there.
Anyways, as the pylons die, as all this is happening... Abaddon and Celestine have been fighting. Well, since Celestine sort of lost some of her power, she's no longer healing continuously, and she's losing the fight. Anyway, he ends up dropping her and turning to Creed and going after Creed. And just as he's cut off Creed's arm, shredded his other arm's fingers, and is literally just choking him, and basically doing villain type thing. I've won. Cadia has fallen, and and about that time, Celestine gets up, and it's not really much of a monologue. He says like 2 lines.
Well,
it's not really much of a monologue.
He gets stabbed.
Regardless, he gets stabbed in the spine by Celestine, and about that time, all the or this is as the pylons are at their peak. And he decides that if he's going to fall back, it has to be now, because he won't be able to teleport away later, and he knows that all these black storm pieces are going to be slamming into the planet, destroying it. So he has to leave, or the power of the warp will be gone. He won't be able to teleport away. So he basically leaves, like, you may have won the battle, but I've won this. But I've won the fight for the planet.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, there was one point when he was about to kill Celestine or Creed, but then Greyfax.
Right. Yeah, that was why he was, before he turned to Creed, he was basically going to strike the final blow on Celestine, but Greyfax basically mind raped him for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then kind of fell over from the pain. But at that point, Celestine kind of gets away, and Creed shows up, and that's when all that happens. Yeah. In any case, oh jeez, talking longer than I thought. All that happens. They sort of end up retreating slowly and getting away, as you know. Abaddon's more or less kind of pulled back. It's more or less just demons now on the planet.
Yeah, and then people trying to
They're trying to evacuate. They're kind of holding the lines. Creed ends up being the one to stay behind and sort of
scream out defiantly.
Yeah, as they fly away, he yells his usual Cadia stands roar. And anyways, they leave. And Abaddon's like, you can leave the fleet. I don't really care. They don't have anything of value.
Except...
And then the Sorcerer's like, are you sure? There's nothing of value on the fleet.
On the Felix.
Yeah.
I'm not talking
and then the
about
Sorcerer's
Felix.
like, what about... And says a name, which of course you don't know. And that's enough to make Abaddon go that word has... That name has as much currency now as it did back when Horus first stepped foot on the planet that started the heresy. I forget the name. Davin, or I don't know, something like that. Basically, it's where Horus started to go nuts. So basically, it dates back to the Horus heresy. All this happens. He's like, well, shit, stop that ship.
Stop. Specifically, the Cal ship.
Yeah. Stop the ship Cal is on. Belisarius Cal. And, of course, that's where Celestine and Greyfax are and all them. Anyways, about the time, though, the fleet decides to actually act, the Phalanx and the remnants of the Imperial fleet are basically in the middle of a warp jump they can't get out of anymore, and they're leaving. The Inquisitor ship, along with Celestine, Greyfax, and Cal, are not going to get away.
So they land on the moon.
Yeah, they basically, Celestine says go to the moon. They go there. It's basically a horrible awful place, ice-covered world.
Everyone dying frost.
People like literally freezing to death. Anyways, they end up landing and marching under being attacked and harried by the Black Legion. Mm-hmm. Scout forces mostly trying to find them because the storm kind of makes it hard. Anyways, they keep going higher and higher into the mountains. At some point, the Black Templars here have said... They send about a quarter of their forces with the Emperor's Champion back to sort of buy time, sort of as a final, they're going to die doing this.
Yeah.
So they do that, they go back, and essentially the forces slowly fall back, kind of like, in this kind of manner, like covering each other, as they kind of continue up this mountain where Celestine's leading them. Just as Abaddon sort of reaches them, comes out of his Land Raider with his Terminator friends,
ready to destroy his foes.
Suddenly, Harlequins appear.
A gate opens.
Yeah, Harlequins come flying out of the ice with their jet bikes, the troop. There's witches. There's normal Eldar craft world warriors from all sorts of craft worlds. Like
the witches of Komarov specifically.
Well, that's the Dark Eldar. The Dark Eldar are there, but like Bealtant, Ulthway, multiple other craft worlds that never really are seen working together have literally formed this coalition, and are just beat the shit out of Abaddon. Basically, he tries to advance twice and gets annihilated.
Pretty much,
twice.
Abaddon was hoping to destroy these weary, beaten down.
Yeah, and they end up fighting an
Imperium
actual decent Eldar force here.
Eldar force who were completely just waiting.
Yeah. So, anyways, they end up cresting the top of the hill. And sort of wading past Eldar warriors and whatnot, and
to enter into
Dark Eldar warriors, Harlequins, all that. And they kind of end up seeing Cal sees like basically 3 major figures plus, then eventually 4, but 3 major figures initially. He sees Eldrad, and then he sees 2 he doesn't know. Let me see if I can find a picture here. I'll actually put that on the screen because there's a interesting character. In some of the previous pictures, I think they showed of the images, you had seen basically a Dark Eldar warrior guy, looks Dark Eldar-ish in red armor. And you can definitely see a model for him in this book. Finding it is not as easy as you might hope.
Keep going.
Yeah. Anyways, continuing though what I was talking about. One of them he doesn't, he recognizes Eldrad. However, other characters he doesn't really recognize. So as you can see here, in this image, this is sort of basically actual models, right? Well, in that yellow area, we can actually show up on camera.
Yeah, it does.
There you go. You have this guy, who is really definitely looks Dark Eldar-ish, but there's some aspects of his Eldar armor. And it says says Cal doesn't have any data of armor of this type ever. He said he recognizes pieces of Dark Eldar, but also pieces of normal aspect warrior armor. Doesn't recognize this guy, and then doesn't recognize a woman in an elegant gown.
Yes,
is what it says.
Gown.
Yeah, a woman in an elegant gown, basically striding through the middle of the battle, extremely calmly issuing orders, and basically seems completely unperturbed. I have a potential guess that might be Lady Malice from the Dark Eldar, but I don't know. We'll see. That's just my guess at it. Anyways, about that time, the Veil Walker shows back up from the Harlequin Shadowseer. She shows up. Cal is like, "Where the hell are you taking us?" And she says,
"Into the light."
She says, "Into the light," and like cocks her head and like, "Unless you prefer to stay in the dark." So Cal is a little bit unnerved by this, and he hopes that it's an attempt at humor by her, and sort of, like, all right, but what, for what purpose are we doing this? And she basically alludes or says that there's a parlay to be struck if he has the courage for it. And it ends with basically the Black Templars, some Scions, Celestine, Greyfax, Sororitas, all going into this, webway portal, and basically leaves it with, this could be the start of sort of a Eldar
Imperium alliance.
Like Eldar, Dark Eldar, Harlequin, Imperium alliance. Now, I don't have any delusions that the Imperium is going to ally with the Eldar. However, it wouldn't surprise me if there's that way going to be a subset faction that, that is actually at least subset of the Imperium that is willing to work with the Eldar for the purposes of chaos not ruling the galaxy.
Considering, especially since, Cadia was destroyed. That planet is gone.
Yeah.
Oh, but did you mention Creed?
Right. So at the very end, Creed is basically
before the
planet finishes going away and being sucked into the warp. He's more or less delirious and is basically out of energy now since his arm's been ripped the hell off. But about that time, as it says, a metal giant with a skilled cloak, so Trazyn, arrives and tells him, "This need not be the end. Why stop here when you can go for eternity?"
Yeah.
And says Creed sees like the greenish lights, and basically Trazyn takes Creed as his newest Pokemon. So
a prize indeed.
Yeah.
A reward most worthy.
So that more or less covers the
Fall of Cadia. A lot.
If you guys have any thoughts or questions or anything you want to know about the book, by all means ask, and I will try to answer anything I can in chat, in the comments below. But it's a very fun, interesting book. The new models are interesting and could be kind of cool. I really like the Castellans of the Empire Detachment. Mm-hmm. It's a very fun, fluffy, force to bring, especially in terms of this book.
Especially in terms of like the lore and everything.
Yeah, it's very cool. So, that's more or less it. If you guys have questions, like I said, please do ask them. I would be happy to, or
we'll be happy
whoever gets to it first,
yeah.
we'll be happy to talk about it. But Until next time, guys, as always, take care.
Yep. If you like this, please, of course, like and subscribe. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Yep. Until next time, guys.